Hello everyone, my fellow students and Dr. Chan. This is Stanley Rakel and this video is the presentation of my Excel file, which is essentially an introduction to financial accounting, namely to balance sheet and income statement. This video may be useful for beginner accounting students as it provides a brief snapshot to those two financial statements. We are at the introduction tab where I have, as you can see, three buttons: balance sheet overview, income statement overview, and exercise. Let me demonstrate how to navigate the menu. When we click on balance sheet overview, it will take us to balance sheet overview tab where we have the definition of balance sheet, which is a statement of financial position of a business entity that lists its assets, liabilities, and owner's equity at a specified point of time. It also shows what is considered a fundamental accounting equation, or more commonly known as balance sheet equation, which is assets equal to liabilities plus owner's equity. And it also tells the viewer that on a typical balance sheet, assets are listed in the order of liquidity or ease of conversion into cash, and liabilities are listed in the order of maturity, with the current liabilities listed first. And below you can see an example of a typical balance sheet. Let's go back to the introduction. Now, let's view the income statement. Again, the format of income statement tab is very similar to the balance sheet tab, where we have the definition of income statement, which is more commonly known as a profit and loss statement, and it is a statement of financial performance of business entity. And the simplified formula of an income statement is net income equals revenues minus expenses. Let's go back. Now it's time to practice. Let's click on exercise button, and we are in inputs screen right now. Now, as you can see here in the value column, this is where a user is prompted to input values for various balance sheet and income statement items listed on the left hand side. Currently it's populated, but let me just delete everything, clear everything for demonstration. Now, as you can see, the classification and financial statement fields contain formula that essentially test the value entered in value column, in value in the cells below the title value. Let's see. For instance, if we input, this is just for practicing purposes, if we input $100 for cash, let's see what happens. There's a formula here. It's an if statement that also contains vertical lookup function. What it does, if the value of cell C5 is positive, which it should be for cash, then the VLOOKUP formula will search for item named cash here in item classification tab, and it will assign asset the proper classification to that item, and it will return that value here in cell D5. On the very next column, financial statement, we have a nested if statement, which basically tests uh, depending on the classification value in cell D5, it will either assign uh, it will assign a corresponding financial statement to that item. It will show the financial statement where that item belongs. If it's an asset, it belongs in balance sheet. If it's a liability, it is again a balance sheet. Owner's equity, same here. Or it can be an income statement if it's neither asset nor liability nor owner's equity. Please note that there is another feature in that in this formula. If for instance a user enters a negative value, then the error message will be displayed, prompting the user to enter positive value because, well, you cannot enter negative value for cash. And there's a conditional statement, the formatting in this cell. Whenever a negative value is entered, it will be highlighted in light red. So let's just populate uh, all these cells and see what happens. Let's just assign arbitrary numbers to those cells. Let's just, for simplicity, let's take $100 and copy it. Now, this portion, as you can see, is balance sheet items, assets, liabilities, and equity. Now that we populated these cells, let's look at the balance sheet and see what it looks like by clicking on this button, which will take us to the balance sheet tab. Here we have a balance sheet, and as you can see, it is out of balance. There is a there's a formula here that basically takes the difference between assets and the sum of liabilities and owner's equity. It's a control mechanism to show that whether or not we are in balance. In this case, we're not, and the as in the um, inputs tab, there is also, we have a conditional formatting here that highlights the cell in red if the value inside the cell is anything other than 0, meaning if we are out of balance, and the error message gets displayed. So while for beginner accounting students, all the aspects and implications of double entry bookkeeping and how it affects various accounts will be presented later on in a financial accounting course. Uh, the here the primary objective is to show the students to learn they need to learn that the balance sheet has to balance first and foremost, hence the name of balance sheet. And well, since we're out of balance, we need to simply go back to inputs and adjust some of the numbers either in assets or in liabilities and owner's equity section. Let's go back to inputs and let's say, since we know that our difference is $19,900, let's adjust, for instance, accounts payable by $19,900 by simply adding that value to the previously assigned value. Now let's view the balance sheet again, and as you can see, we are in balance now. And here let's just let's populate the items, the income statement items. Let's see. Again, it's arbitrary numbers simply for demonstration purposes. Now we're done, and let's view the income statement. As you can see, we have sales and all the expenses, and this is our net income. Now, this is essentially it for the balance sheet and income statement. Again, as I mentioned, it's just a snapshot, it's a brief overview, but I do believe that it might be useful for a beginner accounting student. Thank you very much for your time, and I hope you will find this presentation useful.